It was the final class of the day, and the last class before winter break 8th period. The energy in the building was off, like everyone had already mentally checked out. Even the teachers, Mr. Renz, our sociology teacher, had turned off the lights and queued up a documentary about school social dynamics. But no one was watching. Most kids were scrolling on their phones or whispering about holiday plans. The classroom had that lazy, fluorescent hum mixed with distant hallway noise lockers. Slamming, the occasional laugh, normal stuff. I was in the back row, right near the emergency fire exit that no one was supposed to use. The door was marked with red caution tape and a sign that read, "Do not open. Maintenance access only." It always struck me as strange. The door looked like it belonged to a utility basement, not a classroom. According to a rumor, it led to a sealed-off stairwell part of a wing that had been under construction before funding got pulled. Nobody cared much, but I sat near it every day, and sometimes I thought I could hear faint thuds, like distant pipe shifts or once, maybe even footsteps. At exactly 2:17 p.m., the PA system crackled to life, louder than usual. The voice of Mr. Jennings, our vice principal, came on strained and breathless. "Attention staff and students, this is not a drill. Initiate lockdown procedures immediately." I repeat, this is not a drill. For a second, nobody moved. Some kids laughed nervously, thinking it was part of the documentary. Then Mr. Renz jumped up. "Phones off. Lights stay off, everyone against the back wall. Now." The tone in his voice snapped us to reality. Chairs scraped, phones disappeared. Someone dropped a water bottle. The lights were already off, but he closed the blackout curtain and locked the door. Then he dragged the rolling cabinet across it. We all huddled beneath the whiteboard. 30 students, pressed shoulder to shoulder, breathing hard in the dark. I remember looking at my phone. 2:21. Then I heard it. A soft metallic click behind me from the fire door. I froze. My back was practically brushing the handle. Another click, then a dragging sound like someone leaning their weight against it. The tension in the room thickened instantly. Mr. Renz looked at me. Alarmed, he mouthed the words, "Don't move." I stayed perfectly still. The handle moved, twisting slowly. Whoever was out there wasn't forcing it open. They were just testing it, trying not to make noise. Then came the knock. Not loud, not urgent, just deliberate, slow, controlled. A girl to my left whimpered. Someone else whispered a prayer. No one knew what to do. We were too afraid to even shift position. Another knock. Then something slid under the door. A folded piece of paper, dirty, creased, as if it had been in a pocket for years. Mr. Renz crawled over, careful not to make a sound. He unfolded the note like it might shatter. The handwriting was jagged and uneven, written in blue ink. "I used to teach here. Let me back in." No one spoke. The only sound was the heavy breathing of a class holding in panic. We waited. 10 minutes, maybe 15. The knocking didn't return. We stayed like that, frozen in silence, until the classroom door suddenly unlocked with a clunk. Everyone jumped. A police officer stepped in, flashlight in hand, followed by 2 more, Mr. Wren stood up, his body visibly relaxing. "It's okay," the officer said. "Lockdown's over. You're all safe." We were escorted out one by one. Hallways were lined with confused and scared students, some crying, some calling parents. It felt surreal, like waking up from a nightmare you hadn't realized was happening. Outside, wrapped in the cold wind and yellow bus lights, the truth began to spread. The man behind the fire door had been found in the lower stairwell. His name was Mr. Gallman, a former history teacher who had taught at the school nearly 15 years ago. He'd been reported missing that morning by his sister. Early onset dementia. He had wandered into the school through a broken side staff entrance, still wearing a faded tan sweater with the old school crest. He carried a satchel full of blank worksheets and a worn clipboard. He wasn't dangerous, just confused. He kept asking where his classroom was. He still believed he worked there. The note? He'd written it thinking his old room had been locked on accident. That room, long since remodeled into a storage space, was connected by that sealed emergency exit. He tried to reach it, knocked politely, then waited. He didn't try to hurt anyone. He didn't run when the police arrived. He just looked relieved someone had come for him. Mr. Gallman was taken safely into care. His sister came to pick him up that evening, and the school district arranged for medical evaluation and long-term assistance. Over winter break, the school repaired the staff entrance, reinforced the sealed doors, and added new security cameras to prevent anything similar from happening. By the time we came back in January, the school was different. New locks, new rules, but people moved on fast. Still, I remember it all clearly, the sound of that knock, the paper sliding across the floor, the realization that not every lockdown is about violence, that sometimes people come back because they're lost, because the past refuses to let go, and that even after 15 years, someone still thought they belonged. It was supposed to be a regular Tuesday at Ridgefall High, the kind of day that slipped quietly between Monday's exhaustion and Wednesday's impatience. The sky outside was heavy with clouds, casting a gray pall over the classrooms, Mr. Corwin's 11th grade English class was in session. Midway through a group discussion on Lord of the Flies, his voice, calm and deliberate, guided the students through the chaos of the novel's island. Mason, a quiet student who always sat near the back, was half listening, doodling in his notebook when the classroom speaker clicked. "All staff, initiate lockdown. This is not a drill." A cold silence fell over the room. Mr. Corwin froze, then moved with eerie precision. He crossed the room, locked the door, flipped the lights off, and gestured for the students to get down. No one asked questions. Chairs scraped against the floor as 20 students crouched behind desks and bookshelves. Mason glanced up at their teacher. Something in Mr. Corwin's face had changed. He wasn't just reacting to a security protocol. He looked like someone who knew what was coming. Outside in the hallway, the school fell quiet. Then came the slow creak of footsteps and a voice, low, drawling, confident. "Caleb Corwin, You remember me? Mason's heart skipped. Caleb? That was Mr. Corwin's first name. The voice continued. I figured this is where you ended up, teaching kids, pretending you don't have blood on your hands. Mr. Corwin stiffened, crouched behind his desk. Mason's eyes widened. Whoever this was, it was personal. I'm not here for them, the man outside said, louder now. Just you, Caleb. Just the man who sent me to rot. Another step, then a loud bang, something heavy slamming against a locker. Inside the classroom, a few students. Let out whimpers, mister. Corwin motioned for them to stay still and walked quietly to the front. You don't have to do this, Jonas, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. A man outside laughed. So you do remember me. I didn't forget, Mr. Corwin said, but that life is gone. You need help. You're the one who needs help. Jonas snapped. 10 years, I lost everything. You told command I abandoned the team. You said I was unstable. You were, Corwin said flatly. People died. Silence, then the sharp, mechanical click of a gun being cocked. A shot rang out, shattering the window above the door. Glass sprayed across the room as students ducked, screaming. Another shot hit the metal door handle. Jonas began slamming into the door with his shoulder. Corwin didn't move. He knelt by the front desk, shielding the nearest students. From the hallway, Jonas snarled, "Open the door, or I start shooting." Through it, but suddenly, a new sound burst through the air. A shrill automated alarm, the school's emergency lockdown beacon. It was loud enough to pierce through the floor tiles, designed to alert nearby law enforcement the second day. Threat escalated. Sirens followed, fast. Within moments, a building filled with shouts. Drop the weapon. Hands where we can see them. Step away from the door. More shouting. A scuffle, and then silence. Mr. Corwin remained frozen in place until the classroom door was pried open from the outside. Armed officers swept in, quickly confirming everyone was safe. Paramedics rushed forward. Mr. Corwin had a bullet graze across his shoulder and deep cuts from shattered glass in his side, but nothing fatal. He was bleeding, but alert. Students cried in relief. Outside, Jonas was handcuffed and pinned to the ground. He screamed, spit, kicked. He lied. He's a traitor. I was the good one. Officers led him to a waiting squad car. The doors slammed shut. Jonas Vanner, age 42, was arrested on multiple counts, including attempted murder, unlawful entry, possession of a firearm on school grounds, and endangerment of minors. He would never walk free again. As the students were led out in small groups, the gray clouds outside began to part. Emergency lights danced across the courtyard, casting red and blue reflections across the windows. Mason walked beside Mr. Corwin as paramedics helped him to an ambulance. The teacher winced, but smiled when he saw his students safe. You didn't have to talk to him, Mason said. I did, Corwin replied quietly. You can't run from people like that. You face them, then you make sure they never get a chance again. He gave a shaky thumbs up to the group as the ambulance doors closed. No lives were lost, and as the days passed, The town came together, not just for healing, but for change, security. Protocols were improved. Staff received better training. And Mr. Corwin returned to class a month later, shoulder bandaged, but standing strong. His first words to the class: "You all showed more courage that day than most people do in a lifetime. I'm proud of you." And for the first time, the bell. That marked the start of class rang twice, once to begin again, and once to remind them all what they had overcome.